Hello. So the day has come to elucidate a little bit on the Igigi and the seven Annuna. What are they exactly? Why were they worshipped? Did they immortalize kings and queens and mortal people? You can never know that. Well, here we have a relief from the throne room of Ashurbanipal II. And as we can see, they are the attendants, winged attendants that were in some traditions, Babylonian for example, called the dragons. And the tree of life is the representation of the king or the queen that is worked upon by these forces, by these gods, in order to achieve a hyper celestial being. That is this particular gentleman here in the relief. Here we have the dragons that are conversing with the king. Now let us see the typology of all forms of such beings, whether in Zoroaster, Babylon, Assyria, Egypt as well, and the Greco-Roman Dragon mysteries. Here we have a typology representation variant glyptic of the Assyrian tree of life, which is all over Europe. Even we can find them in Mohenjo-Daro and some Navajo art or in art related to Mayans. So there we go. This is kind of Roman, like Republican or Imperial Roman insignia, although I'm not sure where this glyph was particularly found. This is the lunar standing, which is representing either the god Sin or the god Saturn, that is Anu, or in some traditions Nergal, because Nergal was interchangeable with Mars and Saturn depending on the historicity and the period of it. So we can see that kings and queens are flying on those kind of vehicles, and it is nothing else than their respiritualized god body, a vehicle that was built by the gods for them to travel. Now, how would we justify the existence, for example, of the Egyptian sun discs that are within the bullhorns, the constellation Taurus? We can reach for Plotinus, the Enneads, to try to explain it as ensouled stars. In other words, those sun discs are the representation of the mortals that join them, as well as the forefront of the great souls of these stars. Now let me just quickly find, here, the Enneads. Let us find the chapter on the stars. That was which Ennead? Let me quickly see. Ennead 2, on whether these stars are causes. So Plotinus wants to show that astrology is compatible both with human. Okay, synopsis of the astrologers. Presentation. Stars do not merely signify, but their causal powers. Inanimate beings, ensouled beings, and original human beings are susceptible to the influence of the stars. The diamond and lots. Okay. There was one more on whether the stars are causes. I need to find this fragment on the souls, on the stars as ensouled gods and goddesses. Whether I will find it now, it is a question of let's see. Stars ensouled. Well, I apparently won't find it now. However, you either believe me or you don't. You can find it in the Enneads. I've read the whole 6 Enneads, and I thoroughly recommend this Neoplatonic work of a person who survived in the den of lions, that is Rome, with unscathed reputation throughout his life, which is a rare feature. Now, how did the ancient people try to geometrize the idea of gods, of the planets, or the Annuna and hypostasis in order to construct similar buildings on Earth? Well, ziggurats were representing the planetary orders, the Annuna order. With the steps, they were also most likely colored And here we have an article by Peter James and Marinus Anthony van den Sluis from London. And that is on the example of the walls of Ecbatana built by the king Diocese of Media. And Herodotus describes that Ecbatana was adorned with the 7 concentric battlements of the royal city of Ecbatana in Media, built by King Diocese in the late 8th century before modern era. So it is a horizontal representation of the planets, just like the ziggurat was a vertical representation of the divine order of the planets. And we have the color sequence white, black, dark, red, blue, light red, silver, gold here, which was assigned to Saturn as black. Saturn was the chief planet and it was understood as the god Anu in hypostasis. Jupiter, rich red-brown, Mars, bright red, Sun, gold, Venus, yellow, Mercury, blue, Moon, silver. It is reminding us of the city of Haran, or the Sabians before the Muslim conquest. They had temples for each planet, and every temple had a certain shape that was supposed to geometrically represent the worship, the reification of those divine essences. So, if I will utter an hypothesis that the most important initiation in Akkad, Assyria and Babylon, as well as Egypt, is the God-making. In Egypt, being a little Isis and Osiris for the general populace, and ascending as a god body of a pharaoh or a queen as the primary thing. And in the aforementioned cultures and civilizations, including Zoroastrian Bactria, Zoroaster came from Bactria in the 5th century before modern era, and he migrated to Babylon. It is the astralistic walking with the gods in order to ascend to the stars, to the spheres, to the stars. And that is a very complex process, of which I will betray nothing, but it is quite graspable and real. So, in short. And the Igigi, or the great winged powers, that are those sun discs that are historically associated as submitted under the Annuna gods, the 7 abysmal and the archons, planetary hypostasis, later were called Nephilim by one Enoch in 3rd century before modern era, but he was a Jewish person and he didn't understand neither Egyptian nor Babylonian mysteries because he wasn't initiated into them. Then they were called Grigori and so on and so on. These are holy divine forces. They preserve a certain measure of order and a certain measure of harmony. Now, whence do they come from? From the stars. Are the stars ensouled? Yes. Can stars have forefront in visible formulations? Yes. So there you go. A very simple explanation of the redivinization back into the stars of individuals that want to step on the holy path of the Ur-Haimatic traditions. I hope that explains a lot. And they're non-local, so with my second sight, thanks to Isis that shed a little bit of her veils, I can see those beauties of these stars, even in broad daylight here in Warsaw, as they jet by. Multicolored or blue, yellowish, or red, or greenish, or completely black. They're not fallen. You fall on the head if you think that the doctrine of the fall was invented by the Jews. Are they, as some call them, holograms? No, they're not. You can conjure any illusion to look in a certain formula, but you need a symbol to see and understand in order to communicate with certain gods. It's like attractor in chaos theory that stabilizes and order things. And I witnessed more than twice as those gods incarnated into me, and I felt as if my magnetic powers and my soul was extended towards the whole city. I could enclose the city within my field, within my power, within my force. So yes, these are true gods, and these are not just illusions that some New Agers rant about. Thank you.